head of the ruling military council, describing the deaths as unacceptable. Joining me now, our chief foreign editor, Rob Parsons. Rob, tell us more then about the reaction to Monday's killings.
Well, I mean, as you said there, the most important thing that's happening today is what is not happening, and that is those talks that should have been continuing in the capital Khartoum today between the opposition and the transitional military council. And the reason they're not happening is because of that violence that happened in the town of Al Obeid on Monday, when 4 school children and 1 other person were killed, when, according to the opposition, the Rapid Security Forces, support forces, opened fire on a demonstration mostly of students, killing those 5 people. They say too that there were snipers on the roofs who were firing into the crowd. Now, you know, the reaction to that across the country has been enormous, with demonstrations in Khartoum, but elsewhere as well. And we're seeing an international reaction as well, with the United Nations calling for an immediate investigation and for a blame to be assigned to those who were responsible as well. But interestingly, too, there's been a reaction quite similar to that of the United Nations from the head of the Transitional Military Council. General Burhan has himself called the killing of unarmed civilians in this way totally unacceptable, and has himself too called for an investigation and for accountability to happen. So what to make of that is difficult to know at this stage. Does it point to a shift in the position of the military, or does it highlight what many people are saying is a split within the military?
So does this underline, then, do you think, how difficult it's going to be to reconcile the military with the protest leaders? I
mean, this really is the problem, I think. There is an enormous deficit of trust between the military and the people of Sudan, the civilian population of Sudan, and this just accentuates that distrust. There is a feeling that these sort of incidents are deliberately planned to undermine any attempts to achieve a political settlement. That suspicion has been strengthened by what happened. Suspicion has also been strengthened by the findings of a military investigation, or a commission set up by the military to look into the events of June the 3rd, when, according to the civilian protesters, 127 people were killed, largely by those rapid support forces. The military commissioned investigation has come to findings that are pretty much at odds with that, saying that only 17 people were killed on that day, that although there were Rapid Support Forces officers involved, only 3 of them, there were 5 military officers as well. So again, you know, there's this suspicion, deep suspicion between the two sides, which is fueled by events like the ones we witnessed on Monday, but also by a report like this, and by the suspicion too that the talks are going to get nowhere, because the military are absolutely set on trying to get immunity for their military officers involved one way or another in that big crackdown on June the 3rd and after as well. Not just June the 3rd, there were killings after that as well. And sort of adding to the general problem is the fact that the political protests are sort of merging with wider economic protests. Remember, the whole thing started off back in December about fuel and bread prices. That turned into a big political protest against the government. Now the economic protests are coming back on top of the political protests. And the demonstration Al Obeid on Monday was actually a protest about oil, about fuel and bread prices. But that again has merged with the political protest because of the shootings. So it's becoming increasingly difficult to get a solution to the problem in Sudan.
All right, thank you very much.